That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Comic Reviews. And I always forget about my headphones there. It's really hard to talk while you got yourself in your ear. Okay, interesting. Sorry, just looking at something on YouTube. Anyway, we are live for a late edition of Comic Reviews. Sorry I'm a day late, but it was my wife's birthday yesterday, so yeah, I decided to spend it with her. Like a loser. Anyway, I'm actually a bit worn out tonight, so I'm kind of just gonna go at it 100% and, you know, not really worry about the how good a stream this is to watch after the fact, if that's okay with y'all. So we'll be starting tonight with Wonder Woman number 58, Cosmic Ghost Rider number 5, Superman number 5, Darth Vader number 23, Mr. Miracle number 12, and for Trade Talk tonight we'll be talking about Marvels. Let's see here. Live, I've got Smash Time and Philip Kelton. Hello, gentlemen. Glad you could make it. Oh, and Zorro Fan Productions. All right, quite the turnout. Gasp. Something made Philip Kelton gasp. Anyway, let's go ahead and begin and talk about Wonder Woman number 58. So this is the introduction of G. Willow Wilson onto the book. She'd been announced on it a couple months back after not Williams. What was his name? Oh, he was like the one that I was very disappointed by consistently. Name's escaping me, and I guess it doesn't matter that much. Dude who was doing the last big chunk of a run on Wonder Woman left before Steve Orlando. Like, Steve Orlando filled in for just a couple issues. Tinian did, 2 issues as part of the Justice League Dark tie-in. But now G. Willow Wilson is going to be on the book for the foreseeable future, for at least a while, I'm hoping. I'm hoping she lasts longer than anyone we've had on it so far, since Rebirth at least. Because we had Rucka, who did like 30 some odd issues, then name escapes me, did like 20 or so, and then we had just a couple fill-in things until Wilson came here. So I hope she stays on for a good 40, 50 issues at least, and that should be a good sign of the kind of quality I'm talking about here. This is great. This is a damn good Wonder Woman comic. It's all over the place, man. There's a lot going on in here that I really, really like. But the moment that sold it for me is just Wonder Woman talking politics with Etta Candy. I tweeted about this page last night, and I absolutely adore everything about this page. I thought we had a discussion about this. I don't remember making any promises. You know those soldiers you just took out are on our side. Your side, Commander. You like to make things simple, but they're not. The U.S. has a long-standing treaty with the government of the Dermonvia. They're democratic, economically stable. The only problem is they suppress the independence movement of the indigenous ethnic minority. Democratically, of course. The tyranny of the majority. Opposition's being led by some new warlord. It's because of him that this new wave of violence is broken out. And you think he has Steve. Steve Trevor got kidnapped. So, like, just that little moment of criticizing the U.S. government for cozying up to really hostile, damn near tyrannical governments that suppress their population because, oh, well, they're stable or whatever. Or, oh, well, they're democratically elected. Yeah, sure. So it's just, I don't know, I really like that. That stuff's really, really on point for me, and that's very much just in line with Wonder Woman. The other one I quite like is this page. She lands, this is great framing, Wonder Woman between innocents and soldiers firing bullets. Is all war without honor now? Is your cause so just that the loss of innocent life can't sully it? That is the most Wonder Woman line you can write. That is literally one of the most Wonder Woman-y lines you could possibly write in a book. And what's interesting about that is this has a reference to the movie in it. It's not a big deal. It's just that this starts out with Ares and Gale. And if you read the end of Rucka's run, or no, not Rucka's run. Why can't I remember this fucking guy's name? Jeez, this is gonna bother the hell out of me. But at the end of the last big run, Gale, Darkseid's daughter, wound up in Ares' prison, which was introduced during the Rucka run. And Ares has become much more peaceful and serene in Rucka's run, which was interesting. But anyway, there's this panel here where Gale's looking at all these swords and weapons, and she goes, oh, look, this one's named Godkiller. And it even looks, not super detailed or anything, but it looks a lot like the sword from the movie. So it's just really, really, really interesting that we've got this reference to the movie, and G. Willow Wilson is quite famously pretty outspoken about the many problems with the way Israel operates as a state. So it's just, you're getting kind of two sides of a thing right now, because you got Gal Gadot, who's very pro-Israeli army and all that stuff, and I don't want to get too much into the real-world politics of this. But you got her, who's got these very, very pro-Israeli statements, and you got G. Willow Wilson writing this, who's willing to have Wonder Woman say stuff like, is your cause so just that the loss of innocent life can't sully it? And that's just, there's someone who understands Wonder Woman versus someone who looks like she can play Wonder Woman. And that's all I'll say about that. But this kind of evolves, and Wonder Woman goes to confront this warlord who has been creating this outbreak of violence, and she finds Ares. But it's not the typical, I was worried about that when this book opened with Ares and stuff. I was like, oh no, she's just gonna undo the really interesting place Greg Rucka left us off at with Ares, having kind of learned the error of his ways. And that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. I'll say that's not necessarily the case, because the way she's setting him up here, it's entirely possible he's going to go back to being typical old Ares, but she's laid the groundwork so that it can really, really function well and seem natural compared to just someone not getting what Rucka was doing. So Ares has escaped his prison. He says, it is Ares. I've returned to find you and to battle alongside you against tyranny and injustice. I really like that. Ares has learned the error of his ways, and he's gone into the world of man to battle against tyranny and injustice. Wonder Woman has that exact same mission almost. But she is willing to concede and be patient with governments and peoples that are acting in bad faith or that don't necessarily have those goals in mind, but she thinks maybe she can lure them there. Ares doesn't seem like he's built for that. Ares is like, no, these people are clearly in the wrong. These people are clearly in the right. I don't care whose side who is on. I'm fighting with who I think is right. I really like that. That's really, really on point. Wonder Woman, for better or worse, is willing to be diplomatic because she believes that dialogue and that peace is the most important goal to achieving justice. So that's one hell of a perfect way to leave things. And so Wilson does potentially make Ares just a villain again without much thought. But she lays the groundwork here in having why he leaves his prison, why he is up to his old tricks. She's leaving that open so that he can fall back into that with the best intentions, kind of like a road to hell thing. And I really, really like that. I don't necessarily think it's going to go that way, but it definitely leaves the potential that it could. So yeah, I knew halfway through this issue that this was going to be a fantastic Wonder Woman issue, and it really, really was. I did see G. Willow Wilson talking about it on Twitter, and she was like, I tried to make sure it was really, really super friendly to new readers, but still respected continuity. I am pretty well versed on Wonder Woman continuity at this point, at least modern continuity, and I certainly didn't have trouble finding or following it, but I was very aware of everything that's been going on. So I'm not sure how someone's going to react to seeing Ares in prison with Gale and seeing, Etta Candy in the role she's in with, Argus. I'm not sure how well new readers are going to react to that. To me, this seems maybe a little more continuity heavy than she initially pitched, but I still thought it was really good. I would highly recommend it. I do feel like everything you need to know is explained, so I thought it was a really, really solid issue. And I look forward to the rest of her run. Go ahead and move along and talk about Cosmic Ghost Rider number 5. This looks to be the end of the Cosmic Ghost Rider series. This is pretty much just another big action issue. Not like in a ton of sense, but like there's just it's just Thanos and Ghost Rider kind of fighting and yelling at each other more or less. So I guess action isn't the right word, but there's a lot of just, we've got to explain why we're going to fight, and Ghost Rider pulls like a Kamehameha wave. That was kind of cool. And it's just a lot of big panels of neat-ass things Cosmic Ghost Rider's doing to Thanos. So, I don't know. I appreciated it. Ultimately, Frank Castle learns that he cannot change the destiny of baby Thanos, and that ultimately he had been chosen to teach baby Thanos how to kill, though as inadvertent as it was. And you get kinds of all kinds of silly crap from that. But ultimately, he's just gonna go out and try to find redemption for himself across the universe. That's his plan. And so Cosmic Ghost Rider will return in Guardians of the Galaxy number 1. Guardians number 1 is going to be written by Donny Cates. It's a new team, new starting point kind of thing. It's kind of hard for me not to say that I'm going to give it a shot, because I like the concept of Guardians. It's just I kind of felt like I missed the boat really hard on it. And that's, so the movie was really the only thing that worked for me. So, maybe this will be a good way to get into it for me. As it stands, I really enjoyed this 5-issue series. It was a lot of just dumb, crazy fun. It's a really, really weird kind of character diagnosis of of what if Frank Castle got old and had to deal with cosmic Marvel bullshit. So that's kind of fun too. But yeah, it's a good issue. It's fun. The end of the series got a kick out of it. I mean, it gave you Thanos wearing a Punisher t-shirt. What more could you ask for? So not much to say on this one though, but it was a good time. It was a good time. Good times were had, and there was much rejoicing. Yay! All right. Excuse me. Like I said, I'm really tired, just exhausted lately. Let's go ahead and talk about Superman, number 5, Brian Michael Bendis. So while Steve was here, he and I had a conversation about Bendis's tropes, what Bendis does. And I got to the end of this issue, so spoilers for the very end right away. But Superman's having a conversation with Rogol-Zar, and then all of a sudden, crash, boom, turn the page, General Zod's there to take out Rogol-Zar. They're going to fight. And when I was talking with Steve, he was like, oh no, let me tell you what's going to happen in Bendis' Superman book, because this happens every time he starts writing a Marvel character. There's going to be a big new villain that are going to come in and completely wipe the floor with the old villains, and then there's going to be some kind of new threat going on. And that's exactly what happened with, like, Toyman and some of the other Superman characters. So Zod's squaring up to fight Rogol-Zar. I'm pretty sure Rogol-Zar is going to win if Superman doesn't come in and help him a little bit. It's whatever. It's just funny that Steve was so on point with that. So what's going on here? There's this really strange opening where Zod is imagining uniting all of Krypton, all of the surviving Kryptonians together, including Superman, which is the House of El, rather, which is pretty surprising. But ultimately, that's just a fantasy. Cut back to the Phantom Zone, and Superman's dealing with Rogol-Zar and a bunch of bullshit. Cut back to Earth, and Adam Strange is trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. Zod comes to Earth to try to figure out what the fuck's going on. And then they find it. It's a little ball. So Ray Palmer shrunk the Earth to get it out of the Phantom Zone. But before Adam Strange and Zod can do anything about it, it starts growing and gets like too big for them to get away from. So they're just like giants on the planet for a moment or two. I really like that. That's a lot of fun. It's pretty clever. Zod gets Ray Palmer to send him into the Phantom Zone. And yeah, that's kind of where we'll leave stuff at. There was one really, really good moment. Because like, as much as Bendis does seem to be a writer who likes his bags of tricks a ton, this moment I really like, where Superman's just thinking about how angry he is about Rogol-Zar and everything that he could do to him, how awful he could be to him. And he's just getting really, really shaken up inside. And then he remembers his mother and his father. And they just have this line, if tests were easy, they wouldn't be tests. And just this one little internalized moment. Sorry, Pa. That's really good. And the way Reis sells it on the art is just perfect. For me, this so reflects what was going on with Superboy a couple issues back. And that was really good too. And just these kinds of moments where Superman's thinking of everything he can do with his power, and then taking a minute to pull himself in and be really harsh on himself with why he shouldn't do that, is really, really on point for me. That's really, really good stuff. And that's a Superman I really like, because there are a couple different ways to write Superman. There's kind of like the Boy Scout who just does right always without even thinking about it, without questioning it or anything. And then there's like evil fascist Superman. There's like a whole spectrum in between those things. I like a Superman who does right, but not because it's easy, because it's the hard thing to do. Who's like aware of what he could do that's wrong and has to check that in himself and judge himself for that and try to work on it. I think that really, really helps formulate the character in my head, and it's a version I really appreciate. Anyway, yeah, Ivan Reis just draws some really fucking kick-ass art. I really like it. That's all I got. Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on and talk about Star Wars Darth Vader number 23. Lord Momin builds like 9 castles for Vader that are meant to channel dark side energy and allow him to open a doorway which will lead him to reunite with Padme. They all failed miserably. And Momin keeps saying, oh, you see, my next design will be perfect. And I just like it. I gotta find the page of just how they keep going, because Vader gets really pissed at him every time it fails, and just kills him. I love this panel sequence where he's like, what else could have gone wrong? And then, and then like 2 panels later, it just sticks the helmet onto a stormtrooper. It was really funny. I gotta find this page that really worked for me. Yeah, I like this quite a bit. Here we are, Lord Vader. 6th time's the charm, as they say. I have confidence that the 7th design will achieve everything you desire, Lord Vader. 8th. Mark my words. Now, I can understand why you might have lost a bit of faith in me at this point, but I've said all along that this is a process, and my 9th design, well, I think it's really something special. One way or another, Moment, there will be no 10th. I really like that. That whole interaction is really funny. What I particularly like about this page is every time you see Moment talking in these panels, Vader keeps putting him... Where am I at? Why can't I focus this on the camera? There we go. Vader keeps putting him onto different people, so he keeps like killing him and putting him onto different bodies. It's really funny. I found that very amusing. So the 9th design works, and Vader's able to open the door, but the planet is rebelling against him. Like the wildlife and the native population know what he's doing is wrong and are attacking the castle. So he has to stop his force magicry and go deal with this bullshit, leaving Momin alone, which he doesn't think is a big deal because he's under the impression that since Momin's just contained within the helmet, as long as the helmet is not on someone who's alive or who's able to use the Force, then Momin cannot use the Force. This is not true. Momin opens the gateway and accesses himself, allowing him to pull himself from his past through. That's really interesting. I really like that. That's fun. This book has gotten a lot better as it's gotten to its conclusion, I gotta say. So I really like where this is headed. This is fun, cool, interesting stuff. Mick Pick says, this issue reminded me of the Rebel episode World Between Worlds, which is funny enough involved time travel. Really? What season is that? Because I haven't seen all of season 4 of Rebels. I'm gonna wait for an answer. Yeah, I haven't seen all of Rebels. So it is from season 4. Okay. That's interesting because, like, time travel is one of the few things we don't do with Star Wars. This is one of the few exceptions. And even then, it's not even like time travel. It's just opening a gate to let someone through from the past. Which, yes, is traveling in time. But not like the way we typically do time travel stories, you know? It's not like Harry Potter or Prisoner of Azkaban or situation or anything like that, or Back to the Future where you're stuck somewhere in the past and you got to deal with that. But man, I don't know. I really like that. That's quite fun. The way that's working together. But no, we don't do time travel in Star Wars that often. Anyway, all right. Mr. Miracle number 12. This is the conclusion. This is what it was all leading to. And I gotta say, I need to give this a couple more reads because I certainly don't think I got it all. I got a lot of it. A lot of it made a lot of sense to me and seemed really natural to the conclusions that was happening. But man, this is really good. I thought it was really interesting, the meta nature of this book. So on this opening page, we've got Mitch Gerads and Tom King in the middle of a panel watching Mr. Miracle perform. It's really interesting. There's also Dan Didio and Jim Lee. I thought that was cool. I'm not sure if other people in this audience are people that are like influential to the history of this book or anything like that, or are just supposed to be random bystanders. But I definitely recognize Dan Didio, Jim Lee, Mitch Gerads, and Tom King. Anyway, I thought that was just cool. So the end of the last issue, though, it had this big what the fuck moment conclusion where you turn the page and it's all the DC superheroes and you're wondering what's happening here, what's going on. And it has like Metron saying, are you ready to come and take your bow on the grand stage and all this stuff. And then this issue has all these characters who have passed in the series following Scott around and talking to him and adding commentary onto his life as Scott continues to clearly live the life that he has developed over these 12 issues. He is Highfather. He has a son. Big Barda and him are living together in this condo. All this stuff. But then there are these really interesting moments and scenes that kind of break down and make you wonder what exactly the situation is. This scene with Bug. What can I say, man? You're in hell. You killed yourself, you died, you went to hell, you had to escape, and you actually found a way to escape, and you decided not to escape. So now you're just in hell, like, forever. Dude, you should have gotten out. It's miserable here. It's all death and fire. Look what happened to me. I'm telling you, there isn't a speck of hope in it. I know, I get you think you can fight it. You think you can just punch and punch and punch and it'll all be okay. This devil has to fall eventually, but you just don't really get it. The devil came after that last one. This devil came after that last one, and after this, the devil comes another one. Hell doesn't get better. It's never okay. That's why it's hell. So, besides the really interesting commentary there on depression, which a lot of this book has dealt with, as well as anxiety, there's that comment. There's like the events of the book. Has Mr. Miracle escaped? And this would seem to imply no, he is not. But then we get a couple pages later, and he's talking to Orion. Darkseid's gone, I am gone, you are Highfather. You have the family of your dreams. You are in heaven. You killed yourself, went to paradise, tried to find an escape, found a way, decided to stay. I can't think of any good, and it's just like, I cannot say I blame you, brother. But I can say, I'm disappointed in you. If everything is easy and nice, like how now everything is easy and nice, you might as well be dead. Robert Emmett's in the comments. So the question is Scott dead and in an afterlife, or is it just his mental illness fucking with him? And Philip Kilton says Mr. Miracle is a trap. And I don't know. These begin to get really literal questions to what is inherently a metaphor. Orion's line, I think, is very important. You might as well be dead, implying that he is most definitely alive. Scott is. He's not literally in heaven. He's not literally in hell. But he feels that way. He goes between these extremes. When he's on Apocalypse or New Genesis, he feels like he's in hell. When he's on Earth with his wife and his son, he feels like he's in heaven. I think that's a really, really interesting perspective and has a lot to do with just the nature of if Mr. Miracle, if Scott Free is a representation of anxiety, depression, and mental illness, is it fair to say that he is those things at their extremes? Because depressed people will talk about this, that they're not always depressed, that sometimes there are moments of happiness. It's just that those moments are tainted by the feeling of the oncoming storm, the feeling that you're not going to be able to make this last. That you are always carrying it with you somewhere. You're not necessarily depressed in the moment, but you know it's coming. And sometimes you are depressed even when things are well. So I don't know, there's really, really interesting critique there. And then Darkseid kind of being the biggest weight of trauma on Scott is represented here and kind of becomes that to a degree. That sense of dread in the room, literally, as Scott is doing something that is just so wholesome, so happy, so exciting, as he sings a lullaby to his son. There's Darkseid just being. And he's not saying anything. He's the one aberration that doesn't say a word to Scott. But he is present. Darkseid is. And there's stuff that just wraps up the whole series here. And the son asked, "What is the fourth world?" And the father said, "The first world is the world of my parents from which they fled. The second world is the new world, which they sought, which they found, where I came to be. The third world is our world, as it is now, in the making, the future being born. In the fourth world, my child, that is my world, the world I see when I close my eyes and try to escape." Oh, God. That's really interesting. The world I see when I close my eyes and try to escape. Yeah, I don't know. I've got musings, I've got things stirring in my head of what I think that means, but I have no definitive answers. I have no definitive take. I gotta reread the series. Not just the issue, the series. And then, I don't know, there's a lot to this that I think really, really worked and kind of just deals with the whole book, honestly. The moment where he's talking with Big Bar on the couch, the moment where he's with Oberon again. I think that's my favorite part. Kid, all this, it'll break your heart. can't escape that. But if you're good, if you stay good, you'll know. There's someone out there who will help you put it back together. That's really good. I don't know. This is a damn fine issue. I'm like I said, I've been calling it the whole time, this whole year that this book's been coming out. This is going to be what's talked about. This is going to be the series that is brought up and collected and sold, and it's going to be the thing that's just around as people discuss the comics in a more intellectual way. This is going to be the thing college papers and essays are written about. This is going to be the thing that's touted up as like, oh, comic books are for kids. Well, what about Mr. Miracle? It's going to be that example. So yeah, really, ultimately fantastic series. Can't wait to see what Tom King and Mr. Gerads get up to next. Good stuff, though. Really, really, really great, grand, good stuff. Please have Steve write a college paper on Mr. Miracle. I don't think I can do that. Like, I could just assign him that. That'd be pretty funny. Steve, I'm assigning you a paper on Mr. Miracle. 70,000 words, due on my desk by Monday. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on to trade talk, everyone. Here we are for another episode of Trade Talk, folks. Sorry about the lull in postings there. Been busy bee. Owning a house, hard work. Anyway, today we have Marvels, written by Kurt Busiek, with art by the one and only Alex Ross. This is one of the big books. This is one of the books that's like really famous, really powerful, and notable in the history of comics, as it were. And the basic premise to it is, okay, we have just a normal guy living in the Marvel Universe through the big moments of it. He's there from the beginning of the superhero age in the 40s and goes on with it, and it continues for a long time. When was Marvels originally published? Let me look that up real quick, because I'm really curious. I just saw it today at the comic shop. They did a new printing of this, which is funny. When was Marvels published? No, just Marvels. God damn it. This is so annoying. No, I put it Marvels. Okay, 94. So, this is set between, thank you Wikipedia, 1939 and 1947. Or not 1947, 1974. So it's just following one guy who is a newspaper photographer and eventually a reporter, as he witnesses kind of the events of that shaped the Marvel Universe. So here he is watching like the original Human Torch fighting the Submariner, and you kind of keep going and going, and you see all the events of history that he witnessed. The return of Captain America, the initial attack of the Sentinels with the X-Men. What else we got here? Gotta find it. The coming of the Silver Surfer in Galactus. And the way, God, Alex Ross and Galactus, it's amazing. And then you just keep going and going, and things get kind of crazier and crazier as it continues, until you kind of see just what a dark twist the world takes as this guy witnesses the moment that kind of defines Marvel Comics to this day. The death of Gwen Stacy. And you'll notice when that happens, there's not much book left. It breaks him. And after that, he retires. Takes one last photo with his wife and the local paper boy and kind of says, I'm handing the world off. I can't do it anymore. So, hot take. Hot take alert. You can't really see that if I leave this light on. There we go. Hot take alert. I've got a light for hot takes. Watchmen wishes it was Marvel's. Hot take. I warned you there would be a hot take. Did you get your oven mitts for the hotness of this take? And I fully realize that obviously this came out after Watchmen. But this does a lot of the commentary that Watchmen tries to do, but is actually able to be reverential and appreciative of its source material, as opposed to just shitting on it and making everything dark and ugly. And then more, of course, has the gall to complain about that years later. You helped. So yeah. A lot of what Watchmen is about the way that public would the way that the public would react to superheroes in reality, the way that they would see them, the way that they would treat them, the kinds of people that would actually be superheroes. Marvel's takes a lot of those same points. A lot of that view of like, well, the public would hate them and it would be ridiculous and they would be shitty people. Marvel's takes those views and says, if your ass was on the line and you witnessed the things that these heroes do, the lives they save, the things they do for the people, and then you saw someone trashing them, you would be offended. You would be angry. You would be outraged. So that's really what happens here. Marvel's, in a lot of ways, takes you and puts you in the shoes of the average, of an average citizen. And like, it does a lot of really smart things. It doesn't make our main character here, whose name, of course, escapes me at the moment, Phil something. Damn it. Why can't I ever remember this crap? Do I have it in this plot? Sheldon? No. Oh, Phil Sheldon. Okay. So if you this takes the point of Phil Sheldon, and like, it would be one thing if it made Phil Sheldon seem like, you know, a goody two shoes, like the best possible person in the Marvel Universe, someone who always does the right thing, and it doesn't. To me, the best chapter of this entire series is the one in which Phil Sheldon deals with his bigotry, deals with the Marvel Universe's bigotry to the X-Men. And that is kind of a microcosm of the argument the book is making. Because in that section, dealing with the X-Men, Phil gets himself wrapped up in the events of everything, gets himself wrapped up in the outrage and the hatred of mutants, because everyone knows mutants are monsters who can't control their powers. Everyone knows mutants are going to replace us unless we fight back. And then Phil comes home and his daughters have been protecting Mutant Girl. And he doesn't know what to do, because at first he's ready to kill her, and then he realizes she's just a little girl. And he just has that moment of the veil lifting, that moment of clarity, where he realizes how wrong he was, how wrapped up in everything he was, how foolish he was to think that way. So it's that really, really important distinction there, where it's not that he's like an idiot. It's not that he's the best person ever. It's that he doesn't have the ability to know what he doesn't know. They were evil, the mutants. They wanted to kill us all. Everybody knew that. Nick Cosgrove and Arthur Lindstrom out there with their guns, they were friends of ours. We played bridge with them. But I knew they'd burn this house down and us in it if they knew we were sheltering a mutant. They were that scared. I was that scared. But there was something in her eyes, in its eyes, and I couldn't help thinking of the liberation of Auschwitz and the look in their eyes. And, dear God, Doris, she's just a little girl. I didn't know what to do. I needed more information, something that would help me make up my mind, blah, blah, blah. So then he just goes to try to find a way to help her. So, like, that moment is his character turn, because after that, you have stuff like the near apocalypse with the coming of Galactus, and just goddamn Alex Ross. You have, like, the near apocalypse with the coming of Galactus, and the Fantastic Four are able to stop it and all that stuff. And yet, afterward, everyone is so frightened. He talks about how he has to walk home from the city. He just walks out of his job, stops caring about, reporting on the news, because this might be the end and it can't be that important. So he just decides to walk home. And he realizes how scared everyone was, how awful everyone felt, how powerless everyone felt. And then, luckily, Fantastic Four saved the day. And then it was quiet. No one around. They were all inside, or gone. Was this what it was going to be like? Silence and emptiness forever? And then it ended. Repeat, there is no further cause for alarm. The creature called Galactus has vanished. We're not quite sure what happened, but our NTN news cameras have captured the series of startling images. We'll show you them for you now. Reed Richards, also known as Mr. Fantastic, held up a small device which we see pictured here, and it seemed to cause the giant creature great concern. After a moment, Richards gave the giant the device. They played the tapes over and over. Nobody really knew what was happening, but we knew what it meant. The sense of relief was immeasurable. We knew the whole world knew that we were on the brink of complete and utter destruction. And what's more, we knew it was the Fantastic Four who saved us all. You would have expected our gratitude to last forever. You would have expected us to canonize the Fantastic Four, to raise statues in their honor, name bridges and mountains after them, and invite them to dinner at the White House. At least I would have expected it. Silly me. Publisher calls Galactus hoax, from the Daily Bugle. Instead of ticker tape parades, we got doubts, accusations, innuendo. Why hadn't they acted sooner? Could they prove the world was in danger? Reports came in of morose, surly thing wandering the back alleys of the city, frightening people. And who could blame him? Big thanks he got. The whole city seemed embarrassed somehow, ashamed of their terror, and now that it had passed, they were all still alive, and they were taking it out on the Marvels, denying what had happened, and blaming the Marvels for the fear they'd felt. Nice town, huh? I really like this moment of all these people bickering around. Did you hear? Mutants all the time with those. Have to bother us anyway? Can't they just keep out to put those X-Men in jail and as a lesson to... You people! What do you need? The world to actually end? Are you so busy digging for garbage you can't even admit to yourselves that you're grateful? Look up, why don't you? Look up for once in your lives. I love that moment, because that's his anger at himself projected onto them. Projected onto people for being ungrateful, for being hateful of the Marvels, the people that have saved everyone. And so, in a lot of ways, this is that commentary of, like, what if superheroes were real? What would it be like? How would people actually treat them? And this says, yes, people would treat them like garbage, but if they actually did what we see them do in the comics, they would be unequivocally wrong for it. And that's really great. And so the last book of the series deals with Sheldon trying to find a way to clear Spider-Man for the murder of Captain Stacy. But you get to the infamous moment of seeing Gwen Stacy die. And then he just can't bring himself to do anything with the world anymore. He can't bring himself to engage with the Marvels or try to protect them from the people because he saw the time that they failed. And it's traumatic for him because he's like, he was so ready to look up to them and fight for them and say that they're the best thing ever and that we shouldn't question them. And then he sees the moment where they've failed. And of course, he doesn't even know the context of how important Gwen Stacy is to Peter Parker. And so it just breaks your heart. And that moment really, really hits for me. That he can't, for the life of him, he cannot look at the Marvels the same way. That, yes, people are wrong for being so shitty to the Marvels when they've only done the right thing. But the one time he sees one of them fail, that righteous indignation fades, and he can't deal with the world the same way anymore. And he has to just remove himself from it. That one's really, really on point. Really, really interesting stuff. So yeah, hot take, this is the book Watchmen wished it could be. Or probably not. Alan Moore doesn't wish he could be anything besides Alan Moore. So, yeah, I don't know. I thought this was Really, really on point. Really, really solid work. I gush about Alex Ross, but man, Alex Ross, y'all, the stuff he does in here is just so good. I can't... The fact that Alex Ross does anything besides covers is a gift to everyone. Anything Alex Ross has spent the time to work on and do the internal art for is just absolutely amazing. And so you can tell why he only goes for these really, really high-profile moments in comics. He does some great stuff. There's some interesting behind-the-scenes action you get here. So apparently he made a Galactus... Oh, come on, there we go. He made a Galactus hat or mask or whatever to get the angles on the forks, right? Shit like that. That's really cool. Just all kinds of neat ass shit in there. Like got a bunch of models and stuff. So for this image of Captain America, you got this guy to model. Or I'm not even sure who that is. It's really neat. Just fantastic stuff. Did a really, really great job. Really, really glad I read this. This has been one of those things, like, I'd known about it for a while, but I didn't really ever feel prepared to read. And it's interesting for me because I'm not a Marvel guy. I talk about that all the time. So, like, all these moments are these, like, iconic moments from the Marvel Universe that I'm aware of, but I've never actually read myself. I've never read the original. So to see them kind of fresh from the perspective of someone who was there is a really, really interesting insight to it, and contextualizes them in a really interesting way, and I really like that about it. So yeah, good ass book. I highly recommend. Like I said, I just was at the comic shop today, and I think they're doing a new printing of this, so that's really cool. Hopefully one with a slightly less confusing cover, because I keep like not being sure how to pick it up, because I'm mainly just looking at Spider-Man, so I want to pick it up like this, and then I look at the title, I'm like, oh yeah, and I have to do it this way. So it's funny. Anyway, really great stuff. How can you not love Alex Ross? Best drawing of the Silver Surfer ever. I love you, Mike Allred, but just come on. Come on. It's worth it for Alex Ross alone, even if the writing sucked, and the writing certainly does not suck. So, take that how you will. Alright, everyone, that's going to do it for this episode of Trade Talk. See ya. I'm just reading through some of these live comments. Philip Kelton was leaving. Superhero worlds are like horror stories. Could you imagine the paranoia of knowing aliens can invade each week? How many times New York gets destroyed before it becomes a ghost city? Yeah, I don't know, it's silly. When you try to contextualize it too much, it gets kind of ridiculous. There's a sequel to the series that it wasn't that good, but really what is... Oh, that's disappointing. Why? Just like before Watchmen, why? Why bother? Oh well. I think that'll do it for me for comic reviews as well. Everyone, thank you very much for watching. Nice hour episode. Didn't do too bad there. Until next time, bye.